If we are one, then every thought we think is a ripple in the same ocean, and every act of love is a return to ourselves. What we often call separation begins to reveal itself as illusion, and awakening becomes less about becoming something new and more about remembering what has always been true. In that remembering, healing is no longer personal, but collective. What I mend within myself echoes outward, just as every expansion in another stirs something awake within me. In our last episode, we explored the concept that has been showing up in some spiritual conversations, the idea of the mimic code, the mimic overlay, which is usually described as a kind of false or synthetic spiritual field that copies intuition, synchronicity, or guidance, which is opposite of the concept of resonance, often framed as energetic compatibility or alignment. It is viewed as something that can feel like it imitates truth without fully embodying it. But if we are one, coming into 5D awareness can help dissolve this mimic code by strengthening discernment, because a clearer consciousness is less likely to be pulled into false light, looping patterns, or energy that only imitates truth. In the language of Source, 5D awareness is a shift into oneness, love over fear, and a deeper recognition that separation is an illusion. This is where consciousness shifts beyond the idea of a destination into an allowing of truth, a recognition that what we call 5D is not a place we ascend to, but a state of being we uncover. And in that awareness, the notion of other dissolves, replaced by a deeper understanding that every encounter is simply another facet of ourselves, waiting to be seen, understood, and loved. Hi, I'm Daryl T. Johnson, a musician, a teacher, and a QHHT hypnosis practitioner. I'd like to welcome all of you to episode 29 of If We Are One. Hello, and welcome to this episode. Today, I want to discuss what has for some time now been a major topic of spiritual and esoteric discourse. And that is, we are shifting from 3D to 5D reality. But what exactly does that mean? And how do you interpret this from a spiritual point of view? Well, from a spiritual perspective, moving from 3D to 5D is usually not treated as a literal trip to another place in space. It's actually a shorthand for a shift in consciousness, a shift from fear, separation, and survival-focused identity into greater love, unity, intuition, and alignment with a higher sense of self. In most New Age and ascension frameworks, 3D refers to a dense, material, ego-centered way of experiencing life, while 5D refers to a more heart-centered, interconnected awareness. The emphasis is often on seeing beyond competition, judgment, and control, and into compassion, trust, and inner guidance. Now, within this discussion from 3D to 5D, one should not forget the role of 4D. Many teachers describe 4D as the transition or bridge state between the two, where old patterns are surfaced and healed, while a new way of perceiving reality begins to stabilize. In that view, 4D is less a destination and more an integration phase. Intuition strengthens, synchronicities increase, and the person begins to live with more conscious intention. 4D is also associated with space-time. From this framework, 4D is often described as the bridge where our relationship to time changes before awareness stabilizes in 5D. In 3D, time is usually experienced as linear: past, present, future. In 4D, that linear feeling starts to soften, and time can seem more fluid, layered, or symbolic rather than strictly mechanical. Often people describe this phase as one where memories, patterns, synchronicities, and unresolved emotions become more active, almost as if time is reordering itself around consciousness. So you could say in 4D, our relationship to time is no longer just a straight line moving from past to future. It becomes a field of memory, reflection, and integration. What we have not yet healed can seem to return, not to punish us, but to be seen differently. In that sense, 4D is the bridge where consciousness learns to relate to time not as a prison, but as a mirror. So, back to 5D. Spiritually speaking, 5D is often described as a state where life feels more aligned, less reactive, and more connected to purpose. People using this language may say that they are becoming less attached to outcomes, more present, and more able to act from love rather than fear. In practical terms, it usually means changes in values, emotional habits, relationships, and worldview rather than an external cosmic event. So, if we were to interpret this from a practical sense, translating the phrase into plain spiritual language, you could say that it means I'm trying to live from a higher level of awareness where unity, compassion, and inner truth matter more than ego, separation, and reaction. That makes it less about escaping the world and more about inhabiting it differently. It's worth providing a useful caution here. One helpful nuance is that people sometimes use 3D and 5D as if they were fixed ranks. But spiritually, they are better understood as states of consciousness that can overlap in daily life. A person can feel deeply loving and expansive in one moment, then fall back into fear and old conditioning the next. That shift is often gradual and cyclical rather than permanent. So please keep this in mind and don't go judging yourself when this happens. Now, just for clarification, when the terms 3D, 4D, and 5D are used, many who are trying to understand this ask, does the D stand for dimensions or density? And either way, what does that mean? In these spiritual conversations, the D is usually used both ways, but not in a strict technical sense. Most teachers mean dimension when they say 3D, 4D, or 5D, while some lineages and metaphysical systems use density to describe the same kinds of stages of consciousness. So let's understand the difference. In spiritual usage, a dimension is not just a geometric axis like in math or physics. It is more like a mode of awareness or a level of reality you can perceive and inhabit. So 3D often means a life organized around physical survival, separation, and material identification, while 5D means a more unified, intuitive, heart-centered awareness. So what about density? When people say density, they usually mean the degree of heaviness or subtlety in consciousness or energy. Lower density is described as more dense, heavy, and limited. Higher density is described as lighter, more spacious, and more connected to source or unity. In that framing, density is less about location and more about how consciousness functions. Here's why a lot of people mix the term. A lot of spiritual communities use the terms interchangeably because they're trying to point to the same progression from dense physical identification toward subtler, more expansive awareness. That is why you will hear one teacher say 3D to 5D dimensions and another say third density to fifth density, even when they are describing a similar inner shift. If you want the simplest interpretation, it is this. 3D equals life experienced through physical form, ego, and survival. 4D equals transition, inner awakening, and reorientation of perception. 5D equals unity consciousness, love, and a less fear-based way of being. So the D can mean either term depending on the tradition, but spiritually it is really pointing to a shift in consciousness rather than a literal place to travel to. Now, back to 4D for just a moment. We touched on it earlier, but a question or postulate often comes up when talking about 4D as it relates to time. Again, in the spiritual framing, yes, 4D is often linked with time, but not in the strict physics sense. It means the realm where change, process, memory, emotion, imagination, and inner transformation become more noticeable than simple physical form. There are really two common ways people use it. In a more science-focused way, the fourth dimension is time. In a spiritual way, 4D is the bridge state between dense physical life and higher consciousness. So when someone says 4D, they may be talking about time, but they usually mean a level of awareness where you begin to perceive how events unfold over time rather than just what appears on the surface. Now, what does that mean spiritually? In spiritual terms, time in 4D is less like a clock and more like a field of possibilities, patterns, and inner causation. This is why 4D is often associated with dreams, intuition, manifestation, and the realization that thoughts and emotions influence experience. It's that transitional period from one state to another. It is the level where a person starts noticing that reality is being shaped before it fully shows up in the physical world. So the clearest answer is 4D is not just time, but time is one way people explain it. Spiritually, it means the transitional realm where consciousness becomes aware of process, not just outcome. Here's a concise way to say it. 3D is what is physically here. 4D is how it unfolds. And 5D is how it is experienced from a more unified state. So I want to provide you with a few crystallized insights that might feel appropriate here. Number one, returning to the core identity. Everything we've touched on in this and earlier episodes, 3D to 5D, metacognition, mimic code, Atlantean echoes, can keep coming back to a simple, profound recognition. You are conscious awareness, individuated from the one, temporarily wearing a human form. If you can hold that gently, without ego inflating or collapsing it into a heady idea, that identity itself becomes the ascended master in training protocol and direction. Number two, and this is an important one, power plus humility equals ascension. The Atlantean story that we have periodically come to is a warning, but it's also a recipe in reverse. For power without humility moves us toward descent. Humility infused with power moves us towards ascension. So the art of being an ascended master in training, which is what we are all aspiring to, whether you know it or not, is to keep your power wide open while your heart remains soft and your will stays surrendered to the greater whole. Number three. Now this one is interesting. That is, 3D as a chosen sacred field. You don't need to get out of 3D to be free. You need to change your relationship to it. I hear many people say things like, I will never reincarnate in this physical place again. That is certainly your choice. But I think one should also consider the gifts and spiritual insights this place has given you. Once 3D is seen as a sacred field of co-creation instead of a prison or a battleground, and once you see yourself as a co-creator rather than a victim of it, then the fall can't trap you because you're no longer playing the game from the same fear-based script. Do you feel me? Number four, the ego as a teacher, not an enemy. You don't need to annihilate the ego. You just need to demote it from CEO to an advisor. Yes, it is a part of your personality construct, but it is not you. Every time fear, superiority, manipulation, or I am a god show up, greet them as messengers. Ah, there's that old Atlantean echo again. Thank you for the reminder. Then choose again from the level of source, of the one, of the heart that knows it is both unique and united. Now, I cannot go any further in this discussion without talking about how all of this relates to the transition of 3D to 5D from the Earth consciousness, Gaia ascension perspective. I strongly believe that Earth is a living, conscious entity, just as the plants and animals, and us, that live on it and in it. In a real sense, we are like the circulatory system of Earth, as well as the conduit of vibrational upliftment that impacts everything we encounter here. So when talking about the 3D to 5D shift, Earth is viewed in spiritual traditions as a conscious entity, nurturing humans, animals, plants, and elements while evolving toward 5D unity. This shift isn't a physical departure, but a rise in planetary consciousness, where Gaia's energy field aligns with love and interconnectedness, influenced by cosmic light and human intention. Practices like grounding into ley lines or dragon's breath help co-create this, transforming negative energies back to positive. Plants and animals possess their own form of awareness, with auras and spiritual energy that respond to higher vibrations during the shift. As Earth's frequency elevates, they mirror this by reflecting emotional blocks or offering guidance, accelerating collective healing without needing human-like cognition. Human love and presence can even elevate their consciousness, potentially enabling reincarnational cycles attuned to 5D harmony. So, what is your role in all of this? Your role as vibrational conduits means daily choices, like meditation or eco-spiritual practices, directly feeding Earth's field, fostering synchronicities and unity across all life. This aligns with seeing 3D as a dream dissolving into 5D awareness, where we co-create a new Earth of peace through expanded perception. No one is left behind. It's a shared spiral upward. Now, the underlying theme in all of this is our current volatile period of shift from dense vibrational reality to a higher vibrational field of awakened enlightenment and oneness-centric awareness. From this standpoint, we need to understand that we are in a major period of spiritual transition and transformation from the vibrational conditions of fear and separation into one of divine spiritual awareness and unity with one another and all that is. We're in the thick of a profound spiritual transition right now, moving from fear-based separation, rooted in 3D survival dynamics, to a unified 5D consciousness of oneness and divine awareness. This shift elevates Earth's entire ecosystem, with humans as key conduits, channeling love to harmonize all life. Fear and separation thrive in 3D by amplifying duality, us versus them, scarcity and control, keeping vibrations low and fragmented. The current transformation dissolves this through rising collective awareness, where divine light exposes illusion and invites unity. Everyone and everything interconnected as expressions of Source. This isn't gradual for all. It's an accelerating wave triggered by cosmic alignments and human heart openings, fostering trust over doubt. As a living entity, Earth mirrors this shift, shedding dense energies like pollution or conflict while birthing higher frequencies through natural events and human stewardship. Plants and animals attune effortlessly, their innate wisdom amplifying the planetary grid. Think forests as lungs of oneness, animals as guardians of instinctual harmony. Our growing recognition of this interdependence accelerates Gaia's ascension, turning ecological crisis into portals for collective healing. So, within the focus of this change, we need to practice embodiment. We can live this by pausing when confronted by moments of fear to affirm, I am one with all that is. Separation is illusion. Daily practices like group meditations or nature communion broadcast unity vibes, uplifting the whole field. Over time, Synchronicities multiply, confirming the shift. Old triggers fade, replaced by effortless flow and shared purpose. This era demands bold embodiment. It's happening now, all around the world. But we must do our part. Now, to be clear, it is important to do this within the context of full awareness of the opposing energies that would want to keep us constricted in 3D consciousness. We need to be aware, but not afraid. For those forces are fighting a losing battle. Certain forces, often described as elite cabals or low vibrational controllers, seek to maintain 3D dominance through fear manipulation, resource hoarding, and divisive systems for their own power. You see it and feel it in our daily news cycle. And we should be very clear that so much more is taking place behind the scenes and out of view of mainstream awareness. But as I said, what they do is a losing battle. They're fighting a losing battle because as humanity has hit a tipping point in consciousness, we are winning with awakened souls outnumbering the manipulators. Cosmic energies and heart-centered momentum make a 5D spiritual world order inevitable, prioritizing unity, abundance, and divine alignment over control. This shift is propelled by billions embracing oneness, rendering old paradigms obsolete, and our spiritual work, you and others, amplifying this unstoppable wave. So I want to leave you with a closing affirmation to use whenever you feel the need to balance yourself. Try this. I am a unique expression of the One, consciously participating in this human experience. I co-create with awareness, not ego. I honor the 3D field, but I no longer serve its illusions. As a devoted conduit of Gaia, Earth's living consciousness, I pulse love through her veins, uplifting her sacred web of life. My expanded awareness connects me in oneness with plants and animals, resonating with their wisdom, harmonizing our shared ascension. I am both grounded and expanded, powerful and humble, human and divine. I will provide the text to this in the written description of this episode. Recite it daily, perhaps during your meditations or before going about your day, to align your energy with Gaia's grid and the natural world's innate 5D harmony. It reminds you that your presence alone elevates all beings, turning everyday interactions into acts of planetary co-creation. So tap in, do your part, and watch the inevitable rise of this planet from 3D through 4D into 5D consciousness. It's happening as we speak. Maintain your high vibrational energy to stay within the resonant field of its inevitable probability. We'll be talking more about this and other topics in future episodes. And if there's anything you would like for me to discuss or any questions you may have about anything that I've shared, please feel free to mention it by leaving a question or comment in the comments section. As always, if you have found any of this information at all helpful or enlightening, please like, subscribe, and share with others. I am heartened to see so many people coming to this space And I truly appreciate those of you who are letting others know about this. And I continue to be excited to witness and feel the growing number of souls awakening worldwide to this ongoing movement to a oneness consciousness. Within this growing momentum, I want you to keep building your consciousness tribes. So, in parting, I send you my love. And if we are one, let's all live in peace, love, and joy.